All right, Sistas fans, we're talking Season 8, Episode 4, entitled Showin Out. This was a okay episode. I've described it to a few other fans online saying that it wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It was just okay. I mean, I don't really have that many grievances about it. I think that the only scene that had me going, I don't know about this. I mean, on the one hand, the acting was good, but on the other, the context of the conversation made zero sense. And that's in reference to Sabrina and Maurice when they're in her office and she's having a moment about not feeling heard and always being blamed for things despite following the rules. But other than that, I mean, it was okay. So this episode gets 7 out of 10 from me. But I know that during the live stream and even waking up this afternoon, I slept in, waking up this afternoon to several messages from people saying, man, you know what? The show just ain't doing it for me. I mean, it's not even just a matter of, oh, season 7 was so terrible and this rolled over into season 8. It's just that people are bored. And I can understand. But it's just one of those things where there was some setup in this episode, but not necessarily enough to bring fans back. And I am, like, last week, I'm curious to see that since this is a post-election episode, what the ratings are like. But before we get into the actual review, please take a moment to hit the thumbs up button to show you like the video. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. Hit the notification bell and select all. Because last night, a lot of people were telling me that I am getting notifications for when you post videos, but whenever you do a live stream, I'm not notified. No idea why that is, but hey, just double check to make sure you are up to date so you know whenever I upload on the channel. So, I want to talk about this episode in the different sections, like, Andy at the hospital, Danny and Tony at the airport, and so on and so forth, because that's pretty much how the episode was mapped out. Oh, man. What should I talk about first? Let's just talk about the Danny stuff first, because we only went over to the airport, twice, I believe. So Danny gets to work, this is after the interrogation and going to Andy's and whatnot. This is just like, look, got to work, got to make through this shift. Danny's so real in this moment because I feel like we all have those moments where we got to lock in. It's like, all I got to do is make it to like 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock. Then I can go home, relax, and get my mind off everything. That's simply what she's trying to do. Tony rolls up, and long story short, he has, gotten her a late entry into the airport's leadership program. And essentially, it's a lot of meetings and workshops and this, that, and the third. Basically after she gets off of work, or even on weekends. And the thing is, this is not paid. So basically, Tony took it upon himself to surprise her by signing her up into a program that she had no interest in attending. And I will say this much. As this conversation goes on, which turns into a full-on, argument, mainly from Danny's side, Tony's mistake here, in my opinion, his only mistake was signing Danny up for this without telling her first. Now, it would have been different had she had, expressed like, oh yeah, so I've heard about this leadership program thing. You know anything about it? And then let's say if Tony said, gave her some intel, and maybe let's say that Danny felt a bit embarrassed. Like, let's say she felt like, I don't know if I have what it takes to, make it in a leadership program or, something to that effect. I want to be honest here. That would have been an interesting route to take for the character of Danny. Have her be in a position where she doubts her own abilities because she's usually pressed down by her own sister circle. Because when you really think about it, Karen is the quote unquote leader of the group. But when you really sit down and think about the different character dynamics, Danny's the one who could really take charge. It's just that she's more relaxed and nobody wants to hear, because guess what? She's the one who's going to tell you the truth. So it's like, what if the writers, and this is an interesting storyline they could have utilized for Danny in season 8. Have her, say, well, you know what, man, anytime I have any good ideas, and usually I'm right about stuff, my friends always tell me, they don't want to hear it. But then when, shit hits the fan, all of a sudden, Danny was right, but they'll never admit it. It's like if I say something, let's say Karen and Sabrina tell me to hush. But then let's say somewhere down the road, what I said comes to pass, but somebody like Andy will say exactly what I said. But by that point, everybody's like, girl, you so right. Yeah, you were right about everything. And I'm just sitting there looking. So I just never thought, to be in a position where I express myself in that way because I'm usually silenced. And then Tony could have been like, kept it to himself. Like, he's like, man, my baby really feels like that. Some friends, huh? Man, I wish there was something I can do. You know what? I'm going to sign her up for this program. See, something like that could have definitely enhanced the story, but that's not what we get. Also, I need to point out, I think it is complete BS that these random customers and other workers at the airline start to eavesdrop on Tony and Danny's conversation, because Danny gets an attitude and then, tells Tony what he doesn't know about her. And I'm just sitting here like, there have been far greater or heated debates between two or more characters in a public setting, and none of the extras, background extras, batted an eyelash. But you mean to tell me that this, slightly wild conversation between Danny and Tony is getting attention? I mean, heck, didn't Tony go down on Danny behind the desk one time and nobody said anything? It's like, ain't nobody see that? But yet, the volume on the debate gets a little loud, and all of a sudden, people are giving them funny looks. I don't buy that. But then Danny does take it a bit too far, just, calling his ex-wife out of her name and then mentioning his kids. And it's like, yo, that's really messed up. So, yeah, on the one hand, Tony shouldn't have done that without asking first. And I did kind of like what Danny says. Like, you've been with me this long and you don't, understand that I have no aspirations to enhance my job here. Because like I did a separate video a few days ago, Danny, I think it was a fan that actually came up with this idea, and I did a video from it. Danny likes her job the way it is now because she can get away with a lot. But being in a leadership program at the airline, that's going to, one, take away from her free time. And number two, if she does get like a leadership position, she probably won't have the freedom to do as she pleases like she does at the ticket counter. Now, on top of that, I got to say, Danny, it's just crazy to me. But Tony made a good point. Again, I can get how his message would come across as a bit like, well, you really aren't doing too much right now, Danny. Well, because I thought, with Karen's new shop and, Sabrina being manager and Andy up for partner, I thought you wanted to do your thing as well to, upgrade. But okay. And that's pretty much it. I gotta say, hands down, my favorite character of the episode was the security guard. What was it, Clark or something? I probably forgot his name, but this security guard was something else. So Hudson, also, this dude put hands on Andy twice, like grabbed her. I'm like, bro, you need to calm down. But Hudson and Andy have a war of words outside of Gary's door. It's like, I'm the fiance. Well, hey, you ain't going in there. And it's like, how do I know you didn't get somebody to do that dirty work? And then the negligence. Oh yeah, I have him in the notes as negligent security guard, because isn't it funny? I did a video, short, I think, a couple of days ago. Wait a minute, shouldn't there be a security guard outside of Gary's door? And well, we know who it is now. And apparently he's been MIA for a little while because there was a sandwich shop or down the street where he got this breakfast bagel. Keep that in the back of your mind. And it was so good. And then Hudson reveals that he has power of attorney because, when Andy mentions, like, I'm his fiance, well, I don't see why you shouldn't be able to go back there and see your fiance. And then that's when Hudson reaches for the paper. And look, every time somebody says power of attorney in one of these shows, I automatically think back to the haves and have-nots when Jim was fighting Hannah for the power of attorney over the Cryer estate, but Catherine gave it to Hannah instead, which could lead to a potential, I guess you could say, twist here, because a lot of fans are thinking Hudson could be behind the whole IV thing from last week, because if he has power of attorney and something happens to Gary, that means Hudson has control over everything, his money, his, businesses and whatnot. And as a result, he can make a come up. I mean, he is Gary's right hand, but at the same time, he seems to be treated well by Gary, so to speak. But there are moments where, Gary kind of lashes out. So maybe he's been biding his time, waiting for a moment to strike, and this is it. Which leads to the next point I wanted to make. So when Andy turns, examines the paper, oh, Esquire, okay, we got a little lady, a lady lawyer, a black woman at that. That's all right. Yeah, you could have a look at this paper. And then when Andy looks it over, it's like, man, you know what? Nothing I can do. So she turns around and leave. Hudson grabs her again and says, you know what, Andy, I had a change of heart. You should go in there and see Gary. And I'm like, wait a minute. And another theory I had, the cliffhanger ending would be Gary's vitals going crazy. And this dude is like choking on his own vomit. It's like, because Andy goes in the room and does exactly what I thought she was going to do. How did we get so far? And it's like, I loved you when you weren't the man I thought. I do love flashbacks, though. We had some season 1 flashbacks in regards to how they got started. I mean, we're talking episode 1. Dang. Crazy to think, over 5 years ago, but we flash back all the way there. And in the moment where she's like, how did we get back here? Gary. And then he wakes up and I'm like, yo, is he about to speak? Because I said, she's probably going to say, Gary, I still love you. And then he wakes up. And then next thing you know, he just loses it. But I was right. And the theory is Hudson probably either tampered with the IV himself or got someone else to do it. And it's kind of funny because he accuses, oh, Andy, I know you didn't stab him, but you probably got somebody to do it. Well, maybe he got somebody to mess with the IV. Maybe Hudson was the one that got this, negligent security guard. That way he knew Gary's room wouldn't be watched 24/7. And as a result, he or someone else could sneak in, tamper with the IV. And then that's when the timer starts. What I mean by that is, isn't it funny that Hudson had a change of heart a few moments before Gary went, crazy at the end of the episode? It's almost like he knew exactly when the IV tampering would take effect, and to have Andy in the room would make her incredibly guilty looking. So I wonder if that's what happened. Now, the biggest loophole in this is Jeremy, but the timing, how would Hudson know that Andy was even on the way? And on top of that, how did he know exactly how long to stall outside of the room before the stuff took effect? Well, that goes back to Robin. Now, over at the law firm, we have Fatima and Robin having a discussion in the front desk. And, Fatima even asked the, front desk clerk to, hey, could you give us a moment? Because she pretty much makes it clear, look, everything about you in this moment, it seems way too coincidental that your timing for when you returned to the law firm happened when it did. It's like everything just kind of falls into place, from the stabbing, you and Andy. I don't know if you're her ex or the XX or whatever, but something ain't right. Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right. But then Robin makes a point that, look, everything I'm doing is to help Andy just like you are. And I know you feel some kind of way about Hayden, but the thing is, I need him working on Andy's cases because of the fact that Andy's up for partner. I know, because Leland passed. And Andy's chances of making partner might fall if her caseload falls behind. Honestly, I feel like that's flimsy evidence to support his claim, because the Marie Willis case alone most likely solidified her place as partner. Because here's my take on it. If Hayden is in charge of both his and Andy's caseloads and is able to do amazing at both, wouldn't that theoretically make him the ideal candidate for partner? Because he was able to handle 2 caseloads at once? I mean, when I first saw the episode, I understood Robin's reasoning, but when I step back and think about it a bit more, I'm like, I don't know. But this also confirms my other theory. Robin has Fatima working with Hayden in order to keep an eye on him because he knows she will do that. So, on the one hand, it does seem like Robin is keeping Andy and everyone else's best interests at heart, and there is a strategy going on. However, let's talk about the other theory I had about Hudson. It's like, well, how would he know Andy was coming and yada, yada, yada? Well, who was the one that suggested Andy go to the hospital? Robin. And you also think about it, if Robin, told Hudson about that, could they be working together? Think of it this way. This could be like a four-way or a four-pronged strategy of revenge. It's like, okay, Gary tried to take my company. I'm going to take everything from him. So I'm going to manipulate his right-hand man, someone in his employ, in order to sabotage him. Hudson. Just like he manipulated one of my employees, Hayden, to try to usurp me. So Robin told Andy to go to the hospital. Robin could have contacted Hudson about the plan. Hey, Andy should be heading down there soon. Do what you got to do. And then Hudson or someone else came into the room, tampered with the IV, and then the timing was just right so that Andy would be placed in the room when Gary went haywire. So now she might look even worse, thereby getting her out of the firm because she might go down for the investigation. Why get rid of Andy? I don't know. Maybe a scorn X, that kind of thing. Because I still wonder if Robin, I wonder how things went between him and that shady loan shark that Andy referred him to get the $3 million or how much ever money it was in order to not get booted from the company. So I feel like Robin could be a mastermind of this, and it would be great. But this leads to Hayden gloating over the whole thing about, being above Fatima, and then Zach comes in. This is the sneak peek we talked about. Basically, Hayden going on a power trip. The best part was when Zach chased after Hayden and he almost tripped over the chairs. That was just hilarious. But then we get to another interesting part where we have Zach and Fatima discussing things, and honestly, I like these little breakaway scenes between Zach and Fatima where anytime a character comes in, they like, okay, let's try to figure out who did this stabbing. Zach was eating the hell out of that bagel because my theory, I tweeted this, I'm like, the way that Zach was chowing down on that breakfast bagel that he brought for Fatima, it seems like he probably got it from the same spot as that security guard. And then one of the writers said, good eye, you caught it. That's exactly right. Because go back and look at that scene, like when Fatima's explaining everything about Robin, Zach is like, See, I'm not used to seeing that because typically on shows where there's food, actors either have to take these tiny bites. I think it's for like scene continuity in case they have to do a retake or something. The plate looks the same in terms of like how much food is on it. It's kind of like that Fall from Grace movie where that one extra in the back was clearly eating nothing on his fork and drinking from an empty cup. But he was a convincing actor though, but it was really noticeable. But, to see Zach DeVal just chowing down, I guess that goes back to the fact that most of these episodes are done in one take. And, it's just that DeVal and Crystal have such a natural chemistry. The goofiness, it just comes, again, naturally. So it was just funny to see him munching on it and her explaining everything like an episode of Scooby-Doo. Yeah, so she's basically pulling more of a Vilma, and Zach is like Shaggy or Scooby is munching. Yeah, babe, that's right. That Robin, I don't know. He seems too good to be true now. It's like Andy gets around. Oh yeah, what about you, Mr. Multiple Baby Mama? Well, I mean, that's true, but that doesn't discount the fact that Andy gets around. So Fatima does mention that she has no appetite and she feels a little odd. So this could be the first signs of, hey, Fatima's pregnancy is finally going to get, mentioned / confirmed in Sistas. So honestly, though, this is episode 4. I could be wrong about this, but imagine if Fatima's pregnancy is confirmed right around or at the same time that Karen goes into labor. Okay, so speaking of Karen, we go over to the salon. Karen arrives, and Pam is still like, "Where's the business plan?" It's like it takes time, and basically Pam's like, "Look, I got the product. You handle the business stuff." Basically, what it's like to work with other people in a group project. It's like, look, I got the skills in this specific area. You have the skills in this specific area. So let's just do it and present the plan to Marie. So then we get a woman walk in, Vanessa, I believe is her name, and she takes off her hat and shows that Roots to Riches messed up her edges. Now, as a sucker for a woman with long hair in general, I didn't see anything wrong with it. I know it's the male ignorance, and after freeze framing, it's like, oh yeah, I can see. I didn't care. I think she was still fine though. Her attitude was something else, but it's understandable. So what she wants is $400,000, or she's going to sue. And she starts making a scene. Now, the way that Vanessa was causing a scene in the airport, not the airport, in the salon, that was a more believable reason for random customers and other coworkers to look back and notice what was going on, not what went down between Danny and Tony at the airport. So now they're in a pickle because I'm thinking, like, how in the world are they going to come up with $400,000 when the salon is currently in the red due to Pam's product in the first place? Now, the last scene to talk about is at the bank. And we got the sneak peek like at 7:45 or 8:45 yesterday, where Paige returns. And then we get the scene I talked about earlier in regards to the office between Sabrina and Maurice. So we're about to round out the episode here. Now, basically, we have Sabrina who is explaining to get Maurice the situation about Gary. Also, they I think they remodeled the bank. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I gotta admit, I actually, for the most part, Maurice did make me laugh in this episode. From his reference to, a Democratic nominee in Florida. Some people are like, ooh, that's too soon the day after an election. Well, we saw this particular joke in the end credit promo from last week, so we knew it was coming. And on top of that, Sabrina is still on the whole, I can't believe you don't feel anything because a man could be dying in the ICU. And it's like, I'm still on the whole. If the person was a bad person, it's like, well, and if I ain't had nothing to do with it, hey, it is what it is. But then Paige shows up pretty much stating that she's here for revenge. And she's actually an employee at the bank again due to the fact that she got her lawyers to talk with corporate because of the outlandish tip-off, pun intended, that she was taking back shots and giving customers BJs in the parking lot. And on the one hand, Sabrina with a backbone, wow, that's awesome. But then on the other, it just goes back to my main issue with the character. She, like Danny says, likes to play victim, but most of the misery she deals with is a result of her own actions. Now, Maurice literally, because if I remember correctly, in it was the late season six, when well, no, she didn't get her manager position. Oh yeah. It was late season 6 when she got a job back at the bank, but not her branch manager position. I think India was the name of the woman, the one who works in corporate, that said, well, the bank you used to work at already has a branch manager since your termination, so we'll put you at a different branch. And I can't recall if she would have been a manager at that one or not, or assistant manager or something. But then we don't want Maurice back. Then in season 7, after working her butt off and then, doing that like interview for the branch manager position, it was either her and Paige. Sabrina made a great argument supporting the reasoning as to why she should get her job back. But then we come to find out when she goes over to Maurice's apartment to let him know the good news about her getting the position, that Maurice made a call and, made those accusations on Paige. And I said, I didn't like that because I love the fact that Sabrina stood up for herself, and seemingly that assertiveness and her performance was enough to help her get her job back. But then we found out that Maurice did some sabotage behind the scenes, which may have influenced the final decision. And then the first thing she did when she got her position back was offer Maurice a job at the bank. And I'm like, why would she do that when corporate said they didn't want him back? I mean, it would have been different if in the meeting we saw Sabrina make a case for Maurice, which I think would have been a mistake, but you know, that's who Sabrina is. So in this situation, Sabrina's mad because she's being accused of something she didn't do. However, she knows for a fact Maurice did it in her favor. So all of a sudden she has a backbone and it's like, look, you need to talk to HR or corporate or whoever, and I need to see some proof that you are an employee at this bank before I let you work here again. And I'm just thinking to myself, Sabrina's assertive only when it comes to Maurice, and Maurice is the person that treats her the worst in the show. Now, don't get me wrong. There are moments when Maurice gives Sabrina confidence and, you know, bigs her up with how he speaks to her, but about 95% of the time he's putting her down in one way, shape, or form. So then that leads to the scene in the office where she talks about how she's tired of being accused for things she didn't do, and, you know, feels like she's being shrinking herself in order to make other people feel big, like, you know, being able to feel heard and whatnot. And my counter to that is, well, when you're in those sister circle meetings, you're always jumping on the bandwagon of making Danny feel small. So what the heck are you talking about? And I don't know. It's like, I don't like being treated like, I don't, well acted. I can relate, but no, Sabrina is not the right character for this speech. No, it doesn't work. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the episode in a nutshell. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.